Good evening, good morning, hello everybody. This is Anna Himovic from Rock Dance Theater checking in with you today. And heck, it's a special day today. To be honest, I've been enjoying my mandatory home lockdown, to be honest, because not only today do I have a very special guest checking in with me from Los Angeles directly, but also I think he is pretty familiar for most of you guys, not only because of performing and appearing with so world-renowned bands like Alice Cooper, Sextus, Jellyfish. The list is very long, but the introduction that I'm going to make just now, to be honest, this is the beginning of a Rock Legend series that I wanted to bring upon you guys. And actually 4 years ago, when I was doing this whole Rock Dance Theater thing, super humble beginnings, I did come across Eric's work, and it was, among others, a collaboration with Slash, the Slash's Snakepit project, and it was exactly what I reached to Eric about. Could I include that kind of vibe, that kind of song within my own Rock Dance Theater show? And funny enough, Eric did get back to me. And since then, we kind of stayed in a meeting online because we have not met yet. And to be honest, this is our official meeting spot in our living rooms today on April 23rd. So there you go. The rest is history. We will talk about it a little bit more. And welcome to all of you guys, everyone that is checking in. Thank you so much. And let's get this started, shall we? I'm going to bring Eric right now on. And heads up, everybody. Eric Dover, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, world. How are you?
Hello, Eric. Eric through the looking glass. It's a little bit Alice in Wonderland kind of feel. That's
Like
really awesome.
film. Yeah.
How are you?
I'm great. How you doing, Anna?
I'm fabulous. I am enjoying my homestay more and more, to be honest. This just literally made my day having you on, and it's pretty awesome. I cannot complain, trying to be creative, not only with these talks and meetings, and really making the most of it. So
Wonderful to hear. Well, I hope all of our viewers out there are doing the same and, having
we
a
do
good
hope
time
so.
all the time, right? Yeah.
Or taking on new skills for a change.
Right. So
we did chat a little bit before coming right on, and actually, well, music is one of these beautiful things. Any kind of art, really, that is like a living format is good to do these days, I think. I do want to start a little bit by introducing like your bio, your beginnings into the music world. You are so known for so many projects that are so extreme, which is also one of the things that I'm very fascinated about you, that you are such a broad spectrum, if you will, in the performing arts business, from rock and roll to hard rock to pop and power pop. It's all in there, and it's all fabulous. But I did know that you started actually playing guitar initially at age 11. Is that correct?
yes, it is.
Okay. Could you tell us how it all started? Like, was there a guitar lying around in the house, or was it something completely different?
No, this is a pretty cool story, actually. We lived in Nashville when I was 6, and we lived in Hendersonville, Tennessee, which is near where Johnny Cash had lived, basically. A
Wow.
lot of old country music stars lived in this kind of particular neighborhood, including like Chet Atkins, for example, who had this huge mansion. He didn't live there when I lived there anyway. A DJ from Nashville, some country music DJ, had met my parents at a party and given them this acoustic guitar. And that was really the first guitar that I ever picked up because it was just
Wow.
laying around the house. And that's what I took my first lessons on. I don't know what became of the guitar, but I mean, it was like a cheap Stella or something like that.
Sometimes it starts cheap and then you make your way up. But yeah, like the very first guitar when I was starting to learn an instrument, also, as I just told you right before we went on the show, I got a pseudo super strat with a Floyd Rose, which was also impossible to learn on, suicidal pretty much. So, but I figure that there are no rules about how you actually start, right? Like the stories are so broad. Do you remember like a very first sound that you produced on that acoustic.
Yeah. Well, that was just kind of my learning guitar. I eventually got an Epiphone 1968 that my aunt gave me. I mean, it didn't take very long. I didn't play that first one for long at all because I needed something a little better. And she gave me
Something louder, probably, right?
well, it was much lighter, but it also had one of those de-arming pickups, that go in the sound hole, so you
Mhm.
could electrify and run it through PA systems. And I used to run it through this giant old Sun PA system, massive cabinets, and play along with Alice Cooper songs. Basically,
Oh, wow.
that's how I first started learning, guitar for real.
We will talk about Alice Cooper a little bit further. This is absolutely one of the topics that I'm very excited to also have our listeners and viewers learn today about you if they do not know that. But also, Alice Cooper is one of these world-renowned pioneers, not only for shock rock, for the sound, but also for the visual side of music, also introducing this whole horror feel and vibe. I gotta say that initially, like when I put together this rock dance theater thing, when I reached out to you also with including the song Beggars and Hangers-on into the show, it was also one of the very first tryouts to create sound myself, to include it in the show, like mix it with choreography, with the visual side. And I gotta say, it was a hell of a work, and it's impossible pretty much to play it, I gotta admit. This is one of the first riffs that I actually heard you play as well live. And it's absolutely amazing and phenomenal. I have to thank you not only for that kind of expression. You're known for your super cool bends and slides, but it's not only that. As I was saying in the intro, I did get to know you as a vocalist. And at this point, also, it's quite interesting. Did the vocal part of your music work started at a very early age? Were you also singing along while playing, or did that come later?
It all came together basically at once, kind of in the old Southern hillbilly tradition, I guess. Like
Nashville, that's the effect it has on people.
well, I mean, from the time I got a guitar and was able to start constructing chords, I was already writing songs about my school principal, or just doing something
Nice.
silly, writing silly songs to make my friends laugh or make my brother and sister laugh. Um, but when I first started playing with a couple of other guys, I was you're in junior high. It's that awkward part of your life or whatever, and so I was the default lead singer because like nobody wanted to deal with it. So
Interesting.
yeah, around 14 or 15, then I was already the lead singer because like nobody else wanted to do it. And I'm like, oh, I'll do it.
Well, it's demanding. You're kind of the first guy out there. It's like they used to say that, okay, the lead vocalist gets all of the girls, the lead guitar player gets all of the fame, the drummer gets the beer or whatever, and then there's bass players, for example. So I guess that sometimes determines, right, what you really want to get out of it and why you get into music in the first place, as a vocalist especially. So, but that's funny. That fell remote with you, kind of.
Yeah.
I'll volunteer.
Yeah. I mean, and singing is like not one of those things that really came well. I don't know what came easier, guitar or singing. They both have been so challenging, working those two forms together, especially if you sing. I love to sing, obviously. So, a lot of people go, "Well, you're known as a singer," or some people think I'm known as a guitar player, but it's all good.
As long as the legacy sustains, and you're also not only proud about your own work, but people appreciate, because after all, it's actually the fans always usually giving the feedback. They appreciate it or not, and then you kind of know, okay, cool, this feels like I'm on the right trail. I gotta say that also the variety of projects that you've been into. As I mentioned, I did discover you initially individually from the Slash It Snick, but then I went into the Alice Cooper era, and also since recently, of course, we need to mention the Lickerish project, the Lickerish Quartet, which is actually a fantastic trio. super cool idea that it has so many twists on it. And, I've been a subscriber ever since you started the project. I get constantly emails and notifications, which is fantastic. You drop a music video, you drop a single, and along with your bandmates from your previous band, Jellyfish, Tim and Roger, of course, I think you've brought a new quality into the music world. So I just need to mention that. Tell me, was that on purpose, that a very Floydian, a very Beatles vibe comes across? Or did that just kind of appear and people read it as that?
Well, I don't know. I haven't heard that kind of feedback really. So I
All
don't know
right.
if there have been any comparison to the Beatles or not. But it does have an epic quality about it in places that I think maybe people would associate with some of the things that the Beatles have done before. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I say that in the most complimentary of ways, of course.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've no problems there. Yeah, but it's just the construction of music, the mechanics of music, and the things that you well, as a musician, Anna, that you're always trying to perfect certain phrases and feels and things that you're hearing in your head at all times.
Yeah.
So
Does that, by the way, come like riffs or small chunks of music and chunks of music and sound? See, I'm already getting tongue-tied. This is how excited I am about so many topics, being creative, period, in the music genre. But would you say that it does come from the head directly, or is it intuitively you reach towards an instrument and like music kind of falls out of it in your case? Or does
well,
it differ,
well, in my case, it's never a head thing anymore. That used to be a problem. You know what I mean? Like you can't get too far into your head either. Like you have to release your body with your head, your entire being at once, sort of thing. So
It's all integrated.
yeah, I found a way to kind of make that work for me. But there are times where it can be way too far up in your brain. So I don't know. It just
What's
depends on what
your
you're looking for.
what's your opinion on arts being cerebral in the first place, like even on a learning basis? And I will tell you why I'm actually asking this question. Because it's something that came across quite recently. So do you think it's something that is completely not only a gift, a skill, a certain trait that some personalities do have and are born with it? Or do you think that it's really an academic kind of element that you do study, you learn, and then kind of from mind to action, brain to muscle is being created? Because that's a huge discussion in the community, pretty much, ways to go about it. And I don't think any way is right, to be honest, since we're all individuals. How is it in your case?
Well, as an artist, the greatest thing that you can do as an artist for yourself, at least, is be open and adaptive, uh, and flowing with it. So, uh, inspiration really comes from so many places, and you just have to know when to snatch it out of the air and utilize it. You know what I
And
mean?
pin it
And pin
down.
it and pin it down. Exactly. But it comes just as much from the heart or the groin or the knees or whatever chakra the hell you got. Uh, when it all kind of lines up, it's the best. That's kind of my thinking there.
Yeah, as long as you catch it like in the moment, right? Because these kind of creative moments, I think, in performing arts especially, I'm not talking necessarily about painting or visual arts, but like specifically playing guitar, performing in front of an audience, also singing, that side of the work is also much intuitive and also physical at the same time. Why I asked that question, I actually attended not so recently, wait, it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, Berkeley Music College hosted this master class with bass players and drummers from all over the world, not only David Ellefson was a part of that. A couple of other also Megadeth bands, and they were discussing the same question: like, is music a theoretical thing? Meaning, you know how to read music, you have the charts, the whole schooling program, so to speak, and then you're kind of ready, a musician, a ready artist, just to be exported into the woodwork, kind of onto stage. And it's always for me fascinating how the two worlds collide. Like people that kind of learned it from, well, the ass side, literally picked up a guitar, knew nothing what the hell they were doing, and it just kind of went from there, versus the academia.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess it just depends on where you stand with it and where you get your enjoyment for music. But music is so subjective that, um, you know, that's where there's room for everyone, and that's what's great. You know.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Well, coming back to kind of humble beginnings in music, what would you say were also your influences coming from other arts, not only performing arts, singing, playing, music itself? Was it fashion? Was it any other elements, pretty much, that kind of formed you into a professional musician? And what would be the moment defining for you that you would name yourself, okay, this is pro, this is business, here I go. This is not, a hobby anymore, or an initial fascination.
Okay. Well, I'll try to unpack that question there.
Sorry, complex question, I know.
Well, things like other art forms, any arts, drawing, painting, music, the whole terpsichorean sort of Greek thing where you're just in the arts, right? It's like a liberal arts degree, basically, right? You're kind of into a little bit of all of it. Uh, but okay, so there's that, and
Know what I do.
I mean, and then like growing up and emulating things, I knew that I wanted to do that at 11 years old and be a professional musician. I knew that. Like, for some reason, that just, I woke up and went, hey, I totally really want to do this. So I'm
That's
lucky that
awesome.
way, you know. Um, I can't, am I answering the rest of the question? Did I miss something?
No. So that's totally fine. I was just thinking, it's funny. Not only like we have these two things in common. I remember me doing my first debut on stage, like with my name actually under it, at age 11. Also, I knew nothing, but I was so determined to go down that path, and like hell, nothing would really stop me. There was no plan B really. But I guess this whole buildup of influences, of inspirations, make you exactly decide in your head, okay, I'm translating this. This is going to be my life from now on, and no matter what happens in between. But also, as you said, the arts give a certain degree of freedom. Would you say it's a little bit tricky in the sense of which paths you choose along the way, meaning what decisions you make, saying yes to a collaboration, saying yes to a certain gig, to a certain contract? Because as we know, as free as the arts are, of course, the big gigs require big stages, require big skills, but that also has another side of it, the business side of it, the management side of that. How do you find the balance, do you think, in your case? Because I gotta tell you, and I cannot express this enough, you have been so successful in the music industry, in the sense of you have been so long creating multiple versatile projects, coming from the very early works through Alice Cooper, through Sextus, up until Imperial Your Drag, naturally, of course, along the way, up until the Lickerish project. So what do you think? Was that luck? Was that just intuitive good decision making? A little bit
Well,
of both, maybe.
I think probably, yeah, the right answer there would be a little bit of both. I mean, you have to, in business anyway, you have to make the most astute, shrewd decisions you can, and try not to get caught in any bad deals. Um, and I was able to navigate a few of those along the way, which was wonderful. Um, so yeah, you just don't want to get caught in a trap as an artist where that's what stops you from creating your art. Um,
No, I absolutely agree. And also, I think because in your case, you were at the same time, at least that's my humble one woman opinion. But I have noticed that you've been a very strong individual with all of the collaborative projects you've been, meaning lead world-renowned bands, but nonetheless, you did not lose your individuality and a strong voice of you within the decision making, so to speak. And I did notice that in all of the arts and in the songs and the writing and the visual side of things. I do think that it's probably a collaboration of multiple artists along the way. But in the sense, it's not only execution, but you do stick to your guns and you're determined to kind of, hey, this is ABC, and that's how I'm going to form that along the way. So is that correct? As looking at it from the outside, at least, would you say?
I would say that's one aspect of it, but on the other hand, once you start working with really talented musicians like Roger Manning or Tim for this Lickerish uh, Quartet project, um, that individuality does come into play, and it's definitely a part of the writing process. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's just my inner 6-year-old and inner Bugs Bunny character, really.
There you go. Well, I'm
Into my
wearing this vest with a plan because I do have my Super Mario on. I have a smiley face, of course, my Rock Dance Theater pen, so I'm, all set. I figured it would be appropriate.
exactly, but yeah, I mean, everyone has to assert their individuality in whatever they do, and bring the flavor, as they say here in the States.
Absolutely. Well, at the same time, I think it's a kind of controlled insanity that you really want to put your own mindset and, as you said, embracing the 6-year-old, because that's exactly the freedom that kind of gives you the ability to get where you are and not really looking at anything, being blind, being deaf towards opinion, towards influences, be it good or bad. And I think that's what many times is tricky with many artists in the field. I'm also at the same time an educator. I do teach a lot of young people kind of how to go about the business, not only on a technical level, how to execute it, but also people ask all the time, like, how do you stay course and not get influenced by many things? um, what do you think is the best kind of solution to completely shut off from external feedback? And I mean that only in the sense of not being manipulated or driven to make you think otherwise than you really feel from your gut and you feel from your heart, like how you should go away about things. And it's generalized kind of, but what is your take on that?
Well, I mean, I think what you do as an artist um, is what you do as an artist first, and nobody, people are going to judge it. That's because that's what you're doing, and they could judge it well, or they could trash it. Who knows? But that just doesn't
You
stop
need
you.
a little bit of both, right?
Well, it just doesn't stop you from what you're doing, because you believe in what you're doing. But um, it's it's just the way that people communicate. This is a medium of communication. So that's what we're trying to do here. And some communications probably better than others. True. But
Right.
who knows? You like what you like as well.
Yeah, it's important to stick to your guns also on an opinion level. Do you teach, Eric, yourself? Like, do you have a lot of contact with upcoming musicians and people that you kind of coach, be it completely in an individual setting or guitar clinics, tech clinics of any sorts?
No, not really. I haven't really explored anything like that yet. I have guitar friends that I've talked to, that I'm friends with, that are great players here in LA, because there's just billions of great players. Um, but on a teaching level, I've never. I used to teach in college incidentally. Um, 18 years old or whatever, and I would teach 6-year-olds how to play like, you know, stupid songs, and they would show up and they were like bored, and they didn't want to be there, and
Oh Lord, it was probably you wanting to play the songs like as practice either way, right?
and I was like all serious about it, like, you little bastard. Yeah.
How dare you not love it, right?
Why did you not practice last week? And he's like sitting there like picking his nose. I mean, anyway, but I love to play around anybody that I'm around, of course.
Naturally.
If we were in the room uh playing, we'd start picking, right, on your guitar that I've never seen before, which is amazing. You're gonna have to show that to the audience if you haven't shown it already. It's just
You mean my Hernsdorf 53? Oh, I would have to cut to commercial to kind of properly light that and showcase that. You know what? Let me ask a question that you can really get back on, like for a couple of minutes while I pop out of the studio and I wind that. Most def, yeah, let's do it. Hell, you've seen it, and since you recommended, let's do the world unveiling. No, but I actually wanted to ask you about one performance with the Lost Angels, which is another fantastic project of many great individualists, among others John Corabi, Ryan Roxy, that also was so gracious to pop on the show and even leave us a comment. Thank you so much for that, Ryan. I saw a very first show of you guys. It was actually a recording of the show. I wasn't in France back then because I didn't know your work then, I do admit, and I'm smacking myself on the back for that. It was 2013. Do you remember the show, Ancient History? Do you remember the show in Vauril?
France.
France, yeah.
Hell yeah, it was awesome.
Hell yeah.
That was a
okay,
great.
Awesome. Please tell a little bit about that to our audience while I pop up the guitar. Go for it.
Well, I certainly must say that it's a very it's not a very large venue, but it's comfortable, first of all, and the promoters had the greatest dinner for us when we got there, with splendid wines and cheeses, and we laughed and we talked for a long time about life and politics and rock and roll, and and then someone exposed themselves, I think, in the tent there where the dinner was going on, so they had to remove it because it was no longer tidy. And then we went on laughing, sort of like that, like I just did, where we were laughing a bit. And eventually, Anna returned with a guitar.
I did, and I was also laughing backstage for a second. Though. I love your storytelling, Eric. It's like I never have enough of it, and I already have an idea for a sequel. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'd want to show you. Eric saw it, and he was, I think, kind of impressed. I still am. This guitar, guys, is actually my very humble beginning of any kind of music experience, really. What you guys are seeing is a Hernsdorf Universa model from 1953. It's a German guitar, very beginnings of electronics. It was initially made as a lap steel. It's a 3/4 inch. It has a very thick neck, and it kind of resembles like a Gibson if we're really talking gear and guitars. All of the parts are original, so the tuning knobs, beautifully designed. I think it's actually a maple fretboard. I'm not sure about the body because it's a solid body, as you see. It's super, super slim. It has a very weird tremolo to it. And yeah, it does have a banana plug. For all of you Europeans, back in the day, you just plugged it into electricity. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It belonged to my granddad. It was passed to my mom. She wanted to kind of teach me, but it wasn't really a time for that. When we moved to California, which is actually where I grew up, hence the LA t-shirt as well, I tapped into, physical theater, dance, and all kinds of other stuff. I wasn't really on the practical side of music, but I learned the very first riff on this guitar, almost killing the E strings. It was not Smoke on the Water, by the way. No? Which riff do you think I learned? You're not going to believe.
I don't know. Was it like a high note song, or I have no idea.
Okay, the Godfather theme by Slash. I
All right. Yeah,
swear to
great.
God, I googled it. Easiest riff like on the planet, and that's when music was born for me. It was one of these things like, oh my God, it produces sound. So there you go. Yeah. So thank you for much for that, Eric. I mean, it's pretty crazy. You probably, as my guest, should be the one sharing these kinds of things. The cherry top Gibson Les Paul that I so love. And by the way, I think you did play on that show in France. Am I mistaken? You had red jeans on, and it so matched the guitar as well.
Right. That was my 78, actually.
There you
Yes.
go.
I've
Love that
since
guitar. Amazing tone.
I have since retired it from the road for now,
All
and
right.
I picked up a 2019, uh,
Gotcha.
you know, Gibson Classic. So that's been my main guitar for well, at least a year or so. But I still pull the 78 out and track with it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I also don't abuse this guitar. Like as I said, this has a lot of sentimental value, and it's just beautiful. It's like, guys, come on, it's a glitter top. Who would not fall in love with this? So it's like, wow, this has been a special moment for me. Thank you for doing that. I didn't really plan to do it on air, but now the world knows. And
Well, the
you know
gear
what?
world knows for real. I mean, that's truly something rare. I've never seen anything like that in my life, honestly, with the pedals and everything.
You know what? Funny enough, because I do ask many people, and also when I travel, I go to music stores just purely to check out the most expensive guitars, holding them, playing them a bit, checking, the features. It's just, I'm just passionate about it on that level. And I do ask people, and they say, no, it doesn't really ring a bell. And, funny enough, the factory still exists. It's based out of Germany, Hernsdorf Music. And yeah, it's amazing. They still do guitars.
Oh, well, you should write them and go, what the hell is going on here?
Exactly. I think I'm going to visit them, once traveling is possible again. I'm definitely doing that. But, it's like one of these things that kind of makes you who you are. And as we were talking also briefly backstage before we officially went on. By the way, guys, welcome to everyone who is checking in just now with us. Rock Dance Theater live stream with the very special Eric Dover we have today as my guest. Hi, y'all. And when I put together this rock dance theater thing, it wasn't either cerebral. That's also why I love to ask these kinds of questions, like where does it really come from? Because for me, also on a singing level, rock has been kind of thrown upon me. I did not ask for this. Funny enough, I've been in the performing arts business also as a kid. Started early on as a teen, knew nothing really, yet I did choose to do that. And then yeah, it was also among others, Aerosmith and Steven Tyler's Dream On, one of the songs that was just like so implemented onto me that, until today, it's a huge deal. It brings back memories.
Oh, it's an incredible song, no question.
Yeah, it's just, man. If I had to put like my top favorites, which is always impossible, definitely Alice Cooper's Brutal Planet, the very opening track from the album. And now I think it's exactly the moment to ask you a little bit about work with Alice Cooper, because they say in the business that whenever Alice takes on a new band member, a new artist into his fantastic team, he says, you will get paid well, you will travel the world, but you will get stitches. Did in your case all of the three happen? How do you remember that experience working with Alice back in the day?
Well, yeah, you get more than a few stitches. But yeah, I mean, working with Alice was great. Um, Getting inside of the way that he kind of thinks a little bit, which is still it's always unpredictable. You never really know where he'll write a song from, and getting to work with him in that capacity was an incredible honor. So and those touring days were fantastic as well for all the support that we did on those records. So things were I hurt myself a few times, but
Wait, was it anything severe that you really had to recover like for a long period of time?
I got better though. Well, yeah, there was one incident where I sheared my what is it the kneecap bit on my
Hmm.
knee, trying to put out one of those giant balloons that he releases after the end of the show,
Right.
and
The uncontrolled moment.
I slammed down with my neck trying to pop one of these balloons, and it actually hit my kneecap and just oh my god, it swelled up so huge. I thought I'd broken it, but
But was it a fracture, like at the very end, or like just a huge, bruising to the bone? Because that
well,
hurts. That's like one of the nasty injuries, actually.
yeah, I really screwed something up there for a while. I had to wrap it up good and limp around for a bit to to the sound check and whatnot. But that was among many things. They were the best of times. They were the worst of
The
times.
worst of times, absolutely.
No, they were very best of times. Absolutely. Oh, totally treasure the whole experience.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, if you look back at history, do you really recall all of the time that has passed until now? I mean, you just recently reconnected with your bandmates from Jellyfish right now in this new project. By the way, I need to ask you, who came up with the idea of doing the subway map, which is so cool, by the way. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in terms of history visually presented, like a metro map about all of you guys.
Yeah, isn't that cool? I really love that.
It's rad. I love it.
Yeah. That was Tim Smith that had that idea. He was
All
like,
right.
let's make a subway map. And I'm like, oh yeah. You know,
Next stop, Eric Dover. Next stop, Tim. That's super
yeah, it's
cool.
wonderful. I mean, it took quite a bit of time to kind of map out properly and make it look like we wanted it to, but I'm really happy with how they made it. Yeah.
I think it turned out great, and I think a lot of people appreciate also the ways and like ideas about promoting the whole project, because not only is it fantastic music that is so complex, it's edgy, it has a little bit of humor to it, and that's, I think, what it is one of the main elements that I appreciate about your recent project. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the humor side of the things, because of course you have so much genres. Have the classic rock, you have metal, you have thrash, and it's all kind of serious, of course, because we all do treat our work serious. But the Lickerish project has so many twists and turns in the humorous kind of sense, and it's so cool. It's so cool.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to have a bit of your tongue in cheek for all of this, really. I mean, at the end of the day, you're making like pop songs, or if you make metal songs, you're gonna make a metal song. Like so, it's like I think in the context of how like we write music and sing together, since we all sing, it's a it's a good blending of our personalities, and that way, that humor is able to come through in a nice, in a heartwarming sense, at least to me. So
I think it's also appropriate for the times. I think people will really appreciate this kind of music coming up right now. Not only judging from the historical point that has touched all of us worldwide on the planet. I think the timing is exactly right. By the way, schedule-wise, did you plan on this project exactly for 2020 right now as we speak, to release the singles, to release the project as you are, unwinding it, also with the music videos and the backstage, or has anything kind of changed in the schedule wise right now, in April 23rd?
as far as I know, we're still the official release is May 15th.
All right.
So it's not too many days away, and we'll have updates available and snippets of things and just
Well,
engaging with our fans. It's been really wonderful, the response we've gotten, and I just really, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank everyone so much for you know.
I need to congratulate you on that as well. I've been also following the following and people's reactions, and I think I'm one of the people out there that really appreciate it and follows it, and it's great also that it's surprising on so many levels, that it's not so obvious. And I guess someone like you, being such an established artist for so many years and so long throughout rock history and pop and power pop, you name it, all possible genres, it's quite tricky not to copy yourself and constantly reinvent and really put out a new album, a new project that is unique from the previous ones?
Well, depending on how much time goes by, you're kind of always in the process of reinventing yourself anyway. I think that's a constant process as an artist. So you kind of always need to strive in that direction, right? So
Absolutely.
where you're at in 2020 is going to be probably, let's be honest, and it's safe to say you'll feel differently in 2022 or 2025 or whatever. So it's great to see that process evolve in any artist. That's what I appreciate about listening to music and listening to different artists that I admire or adore.
What's on your set list right now? Like a tune that you literally listened to yesterday? Tricky
Oh,
question.
I was working on studio projects all day, so my mind's a bit scrambled. Really,
Gotcha. I'm just curious, because especially us makers, it's sometimes hard. Like, do you really watch anything? Do you listen to anything, or are you just like stuck and focused on your own thing? No, it's, as you say, it's great to appreciate other artists and also focus on what people are doing, and it's so interesting to observe like the wide spectrum. I wanted to come back just for a second, Eric. I know this is exactly your favorite topic, gear and guitars. I know that you play all kinds of guitars. You play Squier, you play a Telecaster, you're on Gibson Les Pauls. What would you say is your go-to guitar right now in terms of studio? Just like really sitting down and plugging into the proper amp, plugging into the proper equipment, and it's always trustworthy and is going to do the job well, so to speak.
Well, that would probably be my 2019 that I have so far presently. I've been playing with that the most, and it really is because you're kind of getting familiar and tweaking things and making things play better and kind of discovering the secret of how the pickups sound in relation to other things. And it's been very versatile so far. And but is it my one go-to guitar? Nothing is. I mean, it really.
Nothing is. It's like asking which baby is your favorite. It's like, come on, you cannot compare. It's terrible.
Yeah, well, sometimes I mainly go, well, this definitely I could start here with a Tele. Like, I guess if I had one go-to guitar for everything, it would be a Telecaster.
Mm.
You know, um, but I love the mix of different instruments of Les Pauls and Strats, especially used in strange ways. Tonally. That's interesting.
Well, define strange. When you say Telecaster, I actually had a very modest yet experience with a Raven guitar. It's a company that does relatively affordable guitars, but they did put together a very weird hybrid, a Telecaster with Fs and with P90 pickups, which is actually one of my favorite pickups. Me being not a professional guitar player yet, including them, in my physical dance shows and all. And I gotta say, it was pretty amazing because the Telecaster, I think, especially brings out the rawness and, well, not only the errors and mistakes, but it's like kind of nothing to hide. It's like your hands, your pick towards strings, and like everything is exposed, and it's exactly kind of the authenticity that you can create like through that in terms of music.
Yeah, I like the scale of Telecasters for most pop music, and provided you've got one and it's tweaked well and you got the intonation set really nice. That's where we're going back to your extremely rare guitar, the short scales.
Right.
They do come in handy for a lot of things. Short scale basses are awesome as well, for recording. I mean, it just kind of depends on what you're going for in a track. So
Of course.
I'm sort of splitting hairs here, but
no. You're the expert, and like I could listen to you really all day, and I think our viewers and listeners are huge, not only music fans of yours, of all of the bands that you have worked with, but also especially guitar lovers and gear lovers. And that's exactly that, listening to the expertise, so to speak, from the other side, because you're a practical musician. You might know the theory, but you had so much guitars go through your hands. And as you say, tweaking, like anything that is supposed to create a specific element of the music, a specific tone, depending on the project, on the genre, on the aim. It's so versatile, and you really need to know these elements in order to really be not only a successful musician, recording musician, live performer. You kind of need to do homework, so to speak, in order to do this thing.
Oh, I'd say you've got a lot of homework to do. Yeah.
It's never ending. It's constantly a learning curve.
It looks really easy on TV.
Oh yeah, and effortless, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it is a lot of hard work. It's a lot of rehearsal. You're going to be in a room with people, and you have to communicate for hours at a time. You have to stay at a high level of focus.
And
so
physical stamina at the same time.
yeah, you have to have your physical stamina, all the above. Like totally be prepared to go into it and bring out the best in yourself and other people, hopefully.
Yeah. By the way, like, we actually ever since we kind of met online back in the day when I first reached out to you with this Rock Dance Theater tribute to rock and roll, it was actually exactly. I remember like us being in touch throughout the years, and also talking among others about health issues and being fit in the business and staying kind of on top of the game. How do you stay fit? How do you take care of your overall health in order to perform night in, night out in clubs in LA and on world tours like Los Angeles that you did in 2019? What's your personal recipe?
Well, just stay sane and don't be rash, and hydrate.
Drink a lot, whatever that might mean.
Have your electrolyte tabs ready, love. But yeah, I mean, you in touring situations, you have to pace yourself. Obviously, you really want to save all your energy for the stage and for the people that paid money for the tickets. So, um, the travel does tend to take a little bit, out of you. You have to rest, know when to rest. It's like the army.
A little bit, right? Same genre. I mean, to be honest, it's not a secret that performing arts is an extreme sport. It's high maintenance. There's so many elements that, as you just mentioned, people so do not realize, because it looks effortless. It looks easy, but the whole behind the scenes, the preparation of it is really hours before. Do you actually do any kind of physical workout for yourself, be it CrossFit, be it gym, anything, yoga or meditation related? There's so many elements out there that you could tap into.
Well, I mean, I have a meditative state of mind. Let's put it that way. No,
That works well enough.
I get a lot of physical activity from being on stage, but I mean, I'm also like, it's California, so you kind of like, in a normal world, you can be outside a lot. You can be working in your garden. You can be hiking, exploring the great outdoors or whatever. So yeah.
Avoiding traffic, that's always good for the mental sanity of things, as you said, because the body and mind is very interlinked and very connected, so that's also important.
Avoiding the freeway is probably one of the primary things you are doing if you live in LA. But
I would so agree. You know what? I was raised in San Diego, and for that particular reason, I never liked LA because it was just so stressful. Me being a small kid, I already observed that. It's just like, hey, like, what is going on? So it does really get to you at some point.
Yeah, I'm used to the traffic, but it's just you have to drive strategically to travel. So these freeways are so clogged, and nobody's paying attention. Like, you're coming over this Sepulveda Pass, and like somebody's driving, and they've got like their foot on the wheel, and they're just steering it with their little toe,
And then doing makeup with the other hand, or
right,
texting.
and
Yeah.
texting in both, and you're like, oh, okay, well, there you have it.
Well, I think our message from this is like, kids, do not text and drive, and don't do all of those things. It's funny because actually, going into the Looking Glass, Corey Taylor, vocalist of Slipknot and Stone Sour, also mentions that, like, on a hardcore level in his book, You're Making Me Hate You, and there's a whole chapter on just like road rage and wanting to just get out of your car and kill people just for that reason. Just like, dude, flip on like your focus, you're driving and you have 7 other lanes out there, so it's exactly as you say.
I've seen some pretty fucked up I've seen some rather
It's my show. It's a Rock Dance Theater show. Everything goes. We're good.
I'm sorry though, viewers. I didn't mean to say
Well,
that.
if we have viewers below 18, it's like, oop, F-bomb, sorry for that.
Yeah, well, bleep it. But no,
Bleep
like
it.
people get out of the car in the middle of a traffic jam on the 10 and like start pounding on the windows and everything, and you're like, wow.
Well, here's the thing. With all due respect to all of my lovely friends in Italy, if you really lived through driving in Italy, you're good. Really.
Oh yes, that's right. That's absolutely true, man.
Man, I don't know about your experience, Eric, but I remember doing a project in Italy like 3 years ago. We did Rocca Sinibalda, we did like some medieval castles. I was working with an indie rock band, Mattia Caroli and Fiori del Male, which is actually a band in translation that means Mattia Caroli and his flowers of death or like destruction. So cool. But indie rock though, they play nationals, the guitars made for slide and rezos and all. But yeah, I do remember driving anywhere out to lunch or rehearsal. I was literally like on an inhale, like, oh my God, I'm gonna die, and my life is over. So that was a tricky one.
Yeah, it's like really weird, like even the traffic in India or something, which I've experienced before. Like, just don't know what the hell's gonna happen. Well, I was in Pisa a while back, and we were like in the city, and like streets are super low.
Let me do a physical impression of the tower. I'll stay tilted like that. Shout out to it.
And all the tourists leaning or doing whatever they're doing, holding their hand.
Yeah, like that's hilarious. Yeah.
I didn't do that. I think I bought some trinkets though.
Well, be innovative, but put your personal twist on things. By the way, what are the plans for, well, let's say touring, travels in your case, shows? Is it all LA, California localized? Because I did hear you comment about the Lickerish project in one of the interviews from last week, I think it was, that it wasn't really initially a project to tour necessarily, but I think the hunger and the will of you guys heading out there on the road, possibly with this project, could be pretty big.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think where we left it last time, we did an interview yesterday where it's not out of the cards, but it's just not something that we put this project together to do. It was to tour behind rather, but the right setting and when the planets align, I mean, anything's possible. I think I don't rule anything out. I'm just saying at least for now, we're just kind of dipping our toes back into the water here with people, new audience, hopefully, and seeing how they react. So, cross your fingers.
I always am.
See how that works,
Absolutely. Well, the power of the mind can do, mystery and magic, and I think it's a cool way to go. So I am always looking forward. I think so many of our viewers and listeners are right now very curious and looking forward. By the way, I need to ask you. I of course, for myself, I do know all of the websites and the handles, but where could folks reach you actually on social media? Is that a direct website, or what would be like the tags in order to follow you, and all of the projects, of course, included?
Well, we're kind of getting into this with the Lickerish Quartet, which is, if you could post a link in your description, if there's any way at some point, I'll do the same.
Yep. By the way, we will throw out a post-produced episode. Probably is going to air tomorrow morning with all of the cool photography, the visual side, and all of the links. Absolutely, that people can follow. So yeah, it's absolutely going to happen.
That would be super, Anna.
It's going to be rad, trust you me. I'm doing my best. Hell, this is the learning curve as well, you know, for us performers being in front of the monitor right now. And I actually told you that before, and I can tell all of you guys, I am very excited about having Eric today on my show live for you guys. And it's at the same time purely egoistic because I did want to talk to you for quite a while, and I'm very glad the stars kind of aligned right now, as ironic as it is at this point in time. But there is at least a very new and exciting project that we can talk about, and yeah, I'm very glad that I was kind of patient enough for that, and that exactly we could head it off as we did today. So I really appreciate it. Thank you for that, Eric.
Thank you, Anna. I've had a wonderful time chatting with you. So
my time was even better. Really, I need to express that. So Eric, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it, and I would love to hang out for you for multiple hours, but I will let you go at this point and slowly wrap this small episode up. I'm going to join you very, very fast in the green room just to thank you again off the record and then say hi to the guys. So everyone, thank you so much for watching and listening, tuning in to our Rock Dance Theater live stream meeting with Eric Dover himself. Thank you, Eric, and hopefully we see you back at some point in time.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great and lovely day or evening or wherever you are. Cheers.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this was one of my bucket list moments. So my homestays are getting more and more exciting. And also Eric has been such a huge inspiration, not only to me and probably to many of you guys. Ever since I started Rock Dance Theater in 2016, he has been an honorary member, giving thumbs up and giving the blessings to my projects connected to tributing rock and roll, to passing on the torch, you know, in a new way, interactive. And I think there's a lot of legacy and a lot of good stuff out there in rock and roll and in metal that should be there for longer, for future generations. So guys, play music, learn to play guitar, learn to play bass, and just, like, you know, hang with us because we're all in this together. We're like a weird tribe. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. One shout out I wanted to do just on air next Thursday, 30th, is very exciting as well, because my next guest of honor is going to be from the metal world, Angela Martinelli from the David Ellefson Band. And this is going to be another exciting episode not to miss. So if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button right now, hit all of the possible notifications, and yeah, stay on top of things. I will see you guys later, and until then, I have been Anna Himovic from Rock Dance Theater, your host for today. Until next time.